Hi, this is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. It's Monday, July 15th, 2019. And today I'm going to talk to Russell Brand. Because unfortunately Russell was born into a class in Britain that doesn't get the best education. Now, I'm an American, and because my father was a slut for the establishment, he became a slut for the British establishment and the Israeli establishment, and of course the neocon American establishment. So what did they do? They offered him, in return for his services, the best education in the world. And what did he choose? Him or my mother, whoever. They chose Oxford. Now, I didn't actually learn all this at Oxford. I learned some of it at Oxford. Was forced to read the Chaucer stuff. Fucking like watching a 13th or 14th century soap opera. I mean, literally. So anyway, well, let's see what he has to say here.
Enough where I am enough as I am. The aspect of me that can never
back up. Let's back up.
Speak to us of humility, they asked. No one in particular asked. No, someone did ask. That's how these things are chosen. Humility is a vital characteristic, a vital attribute, and a vital quality.
Okay, now, Russ, I've watched the whole thing at least once, I think twice now, and you don't seem to have a basic understanding of what humility is about in British culture. And I'm not British. The Pearl Poet, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So, all of human history, we have, before there was written, we had oral. So you passed things down orally. It was a way of being able to get ahead. Because instead of having to learn by trial and error, there was actually something passed down to enable you to skip that trial and error. So you didn't have to light your thumb on fire to realize that fire is bad, So that's how that worked, right? And before there was writing, like in the time, there was writing in the time of Jesus, but they passed these things down orally, and that's why they're so fucked up and nobody knows for sure what was really said, right? But at some point, there was writing, and people realized, well, here we've got writing now. What we ought to do is write it down, right? So the Pearl Poet in the 14th century, he decided to write down these ancient tales from the time of the medieval, right? What have you? Dark Ages, right? And so he wrote down these 4 stories. Now, in this YouTube video, and you're welcome to go there yourself and watch these. Here, I'll show you the thing there, and I'll show you the name, the epistemological perspective. So in this one, he's talking about it, and he says it's all one book, and that it's all supposed to kind of combine everything together to tell you about life. the meaning of life kind of thing. Okay. Now, that's about humility, right? And then this girl who doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about, except for she's got Beowulf fucking memorized. She talks about it, but she gets it wrong. She doesn't understand it. She wasn't explained by a teacher like I had in University of St. Thomas in Houston. I had a wonderful English teacher, and I took 2 years worth of English there because he was so good. What was his name? Seems like it was Dr. Wasserman. So what he taught me a lot of things. And as long as we're talking here, Russell, I'm going to impart to you some wisdom that he imparted to me. And that's that when you look at people and when you look at anything they do, whether it's any kind of art like writing or music or whatever, look at what they have in common before you start looking at how they're different. But what he taught me about Beowulf was what I just told you, and that's that it was really an instrument to pass down knowledge from generation to generation, so that you didn't have to learn from trial and error. And the first thing that Beowulf teaches us is don't brag unless you're willing to back it up. So Beowulf bragged that he would take out Grendel barehanded, and he stayed there and he did exactly that, right? In the story. So it was a way to pass down a what do you call it? You know, a value. And the value was, you know, don't talk shit unless you're willing to back it up. That was Beowulf. That was the main thing. That's the thing I'll always remember about Beowulf from my class. Now, he taught us, because he started with Beowulf. In fact, it's an English book that I still have that started with Beowulf, went on to Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and the Pearl Poet. And the Pearl Poet and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight was about humility, right? And I'll talk about, before I wrap this up, I'll talk about whether I agree with any of it. But right now, or about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and humility, because I don't. I really don't. But I do agree with Beowulf. You don't talk shit unless you're willing to back it up. Pretty straightforward principle. Now, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, the principle again is that you learn the hard lessons of life, right? And they're trying to pass them down to you so that you don't have to learn them the hard way. Like, there's always somebody bigger than you, right? You know, people who like to fight and pick fights. Now, there's always somebody out there who kick your ass. And, you know, along with that goes all these other rules and regulations, fidelity, and you know, which is like not cheating on, like not trying to steal other people's wives. I mean, that's what came up in King Arthur and all that kind of stuff. But also knowing your place. And So I mean, that's what I don't agree with. I mean, yes, you should know your place in life, but in relation to other people, there's nobody who you should accept above you as, because that's what the Pearl Poet is trying to say in there. So, there's a king, and he's naturally endowed, or he's endowed by God, or whatever. And it's the very beginning of the British tradition of saying, you're just a lowly vassal. You're the masses, or whatever you want to call them, right? And I don't agree with that. I don't care how dumb you are. I don't care how lack of education or whatever. I don't care about any of that. Nobody's better than you. The respect that we're talking about, that is real, not the bullshit propaganda of the Pearl Poet. The real equality and respect that exists there is simply because you're a human being. Simply being a human being means you're an equal among other human beings. Now, I don't care if you can't tell me what 2 plus 2 means. You're still an equal as a human being. You still are of equal value to me. And I'm not going to get into my education. I'm not going to get into my self-education, because that really takes you a long ways. But there's no way that you should feel humility next to me, standing next to me, because I will put my arm around you and tell you that you are just as important, just as good as I am. Okay? And ultimately, what I've found out in life is that no matter how stupid you are, or how much you lack resources or whatever, at some point during life, people contribute equally to this world. The only thing that causes people to become unequal is when they get trampled upon. They get their life just, their face smashed into the mud by some aristocrat on a horse. That's an analogy. And at that point, they become everything that the aristocrat on the horse claims they are. Because at that point, they're not allowed an education. They're not allowed a life. They're not allowed time to think about the things. They have to spend all their life in the mud trying to scrape out a living, etc., etc., etc. And like it or not, rich people want to say, oh no, it's that person's fault. They're just stupid. They just didn't lead their lives right. Well, you know what? If somebody doesn't lead their life right, aren't we obligated to hold out our hand and say, here, let me show you something? And don't you think they would be ready, and they would be right there? Now, they might be angry, they might be hard to deal with, but I would bet you, because how many times have I done this? You reach your hand out, and even though they're like, wonder what this guy wants, or whatever, all the different kind of thoughts that go through their heads. But they do take your hand over and over again. I've seen them take my hand, and I've pulled them up and I've said, look, I understand how you feel, right? I mean, I understand how bad you've been treated. I've been treated the same way, I understand. And that's the beginning, of the relationship. And the end of it is them coming out whole. And at that point, you've changed history. You've changed reality. You've created a person who doesn't want to hurt anybody, doesn't want revenge, isn't concerned with payback, and is ready to simply stand side by side with the rest of us and contribute and be rewarded, right? And that's all they want, right? They want to contribute, but they want to be rewarded. They don't want to contribute like you do to the capitalist system and then come out on the other end feeling your butt hurts, right? I think you all know what I mean. So, really, fuck humility. Humility is a feudalistic, what's the word? Well, I can't think of the word. It's a complicated concept. But it's a feudalistic way of keeping people in line, right? So, I gotta say, as far as this goes, let's listen to, if I can get this to work.
In a life of recovery, I suppose, because humility implies that you are beginning to be willing to change your view of yourself and to change your view of the world. A literal definition of humility, and why not involve the dictionary when we're getting into semantics, is awareness of your proper place in the world. Awareness.
So see, that's exactly what I was talking about, and that's where it's wrong. If I had to say what your proper place is, every single human on the face of the earth, it's side by side with the person next to you and all the people all across the world. It's not your place and then the king has his place and then the rich guy in town has his place. Those two, the king and the rich guy, and the other people in between the king and you, they're not in their proper place. Their proper place is right next to you. And that's what's wrong with this whole concept.
Of your relative insignificance. That shouldn't be used, I suppose, to flagellate yourself and tell yourself that you're worthless and that you do not have value, but to continually be aware that everything we experience is happening in limitless space across eternity can be a useful tool when you're feeling like you are suffering or that you're not good enough. Because I suppose, where do we get these barometers and measures from?
So what he's talking about there is something that I've turned people onto over the years, and that's that we exist in an infinite place, right? And he's going to talk about how something else that I talk about, that within infinite existence is the finite world that we find ourselves in, right? And I'm not going to get into all that right now. I've already covered most of that anyway, and how that works. And basically, the infinite makes the finite pointless. I mean, yes, you have to live in a finite world where everything is measured, everything can be broken down to numbers, right? And yes, you can say, well, I have $10 in the bank, but Bill Gates has 150 billion, you know. And let me tell you, fortunately, as Bill Murray put it, it just doesn't matter. And it doesn't. It doesn't. That's why you are. Because in the infinite, Bill Gates and you, equal. Equal. No matter how much money he has, no matter how his name is known to millions of people around the world, in the end, absolutely equal. I don't give a shit how. Well, I've explained that.
Normally, for me, it has to be comparative. If I don't feel, for example, that I'm a good enough man, I'm looking at other men. If I don't feel I'm successful enough, I'm looking at other people's success. When I engage with you,
but you see, success and failure, in the end, I mean, they don't even matter, right? I mean, in the end, you're dead, and it doesn't really matter whether you failed or you succeeded. All that mattered was how you lived your life, right? Were you a good man, or were you a good woman?
Humility, I have a sense that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that I oughtn't further augment and furnish and gild the aspect of me that can never.
See, Russell is ego-driven. He has been all his life. He's trying to escape that. He has not escaped that yet, but he's trying. He is viciously trying. He is absolutely tearing himself apart, trying to escape that ego-driven existence. Because if you escape it, you have to face the fact that it might cost you everything, right? And you know what? We all deal with that. People like me, we don't really worry about it too much because we don't have anything. Not much. Not much to lose. You know, what are you going to do? Take away my computer? So I can't talk to you? You know, and ultimately that is the ultimate thing that a guy like me fights for, right? Is I just want a way to speak to people. And like I said, we're all fighting that. So that's my ego. My ego is, come on, man. Have a listen, you know? Listen to what I have to say. Maybe I'm right and I really do have something to say, right? So, and aren't we all alike in that respect? Doesn't that make us all equal? Because in a way, no matter how hard we try, we are all ego-driven, right? We're all trying to find a way to say we have value. And can we have more value than somebody else? No. That's kind of what I've been saying all along, is that we can't. So, where is the value? Right? Where is the value? I suppose the value would be in how many people there are in the world divided by 1. So let's say there's 7 billion people in the world. I'm 1/7 billionth the value. I mean, if I want to pass along that dignity to every other man and woman on the face of the planet, then I have to accept that I'm 1/7 billionth the value. Something to think about, people. What is that? What is 1/7 billion? I'm not sure how many billion people there are now. I mean, every time I turn around, fucking India or China has doubled their goddamn population. Sorry. excuse my profanity, but it's true. I mean, America has gone from 250 million when I was a kid to 325 or 30 million now. I'm just one point of that, right? You are just one point of that. So that's how I'm going to define humility here.
Preface of Pearl. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Jordan. This recording is dedicated to the memory of Pearl Jean Shim, 1914 to 2012. Pearl by the Gawain Poet. Translated by Sophie Jewett. The translator to the author. Poet of beauty, pardon me, if touch of mine have tarnished thy pearl's pure lustre, loved by thee, or dimmed thy vision of the dead, alive in light and gaiety. Thy life is like a shadow fled, thy place we know not, nor degree, the stock that bore thee, school that bred, yet shall thy fame be sung and said, poet of wonder, pain and peace, hold high thy nameless, laurelled head, where Dante dwells with Beatrice. Preface. Among the treasures of the British Museum is a manuscript which contains 4 anonymous poems, apparently of common authorship. The Pearl, Cleanness, Patience, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. From the language of the writer, it seems clear that he was a native of some northwestern district of England, and that he lived in the second half of the 14th century. He is quite unknown, save as his work reveals him, a man of aristocratic breeding, of religious and secular education, of a deeply emotional and spiritual nature, gifted with imagination and perception of beauty.
New Year's Day, dawning wet on Britain's shore, King's Hall roused by a pounding on the door. A giant knight dressed in green, Sir Gawain, pagan prince of Northern Isles, shouted, shame on you, brothers, on your silence. Took the axe and struck his blow, brought the giant low, raised his head and held it high, and met the giant's eye, and cried, I'll meet your vengeance in a year, and we'll see who'll die. You or I, that's fear that chills you like a wraith, and it's doubt you gird about your waist.
Of a fantastic feat.
Who is the commander of this court?
I am Arthur, head of this house. Dismount and dine
I
with
have
us.
not come to eat. I come in peace to test your reputation in a Christmas game. I offer this axe to any of you to deal me one blow, on condition that I can counter that blow in a year and a day. Am I in Arthur's house? Is this the noble band of the bravest knights?
Your request is foolish, sir, and there are no fools here to grant it. Give me your axe and I will administer your blow.
My lord, this is not right. Let me be the one to take the risk. As your nephew, I owe my position here to my blood, not my virtue. I would be the least loss to your court.
God be with you, Gawain. Wield your one stroke well, and you need not fear him.
Who now consents to my contest?
My name is Gawain.
Ah, Sir Gawain, I am grateful. Promise you will approach me alone in a year and a day for me to present my blood.
Who are you, and where will I find you?
I will tell you after you have struck me, and if I am speechless, then you can stay safe at home. Now take up the axe.
Gladly, sir.
Remember your promise, Gawain. I am the Knight of the Green Chapel. Greet me there next New Year's morning, and I will repay you. Come, or be called a coward.
Well, that was a marvel to suit the moment. More than enough to make me hungry. Hang up the axe, Sir Gawain. It's hewn enough for one day. When will you go? After Halloween. Gawain, take this shield and trust in its protection. Here, in pure gold, the pentangle, ancient symbol of the perfect knight. Fasten your faith on its 5 features. Stay pure in mind and in body. Trust in God and in Mary. And keep the 5 virtues of a knight. Generosity, fellowship, chastity, courtesy, and compassion.
And I'm going to just point out here that the reason that we think of the pentagram as being evil is because Christianity's taken anything related to the old religions and called them evil. Baal is Beelzebub. You know, I mean, that's how it works. So, I mean, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Muslim, I'm not anything in particular, but I do study religion. As you know, if you have learned anything about progressivism, progressives, people, what do you call them? What am I? We know more about religion than religious people, right? We study it and understand it more than they do. Anyway, so that's, I just wanted to make that point.
Godspeed, Gawain. And that Mary, mother of...
I mean, they're referring to Celtic, what do you call the religion before religions in England? It was Druids. Druidism, I don't know. What's the other word for it? And I'm fascinated by it because as a kid, on May 1st, we used to all go do the maypole thing, and everything is so, it's gone now. It's like in the last 20 or 30, 50 years, whatever, we've completely gotten away from all that. I suppose Halloween is the only thing that's left.
God be your perpetual strength and your guide.
Oh yeah, paganism. So let's see if I understand this correctly. Basically, supposedly Arthur was a king in England who brought the English together and brought Christianity, and was kind of the end of paganism and the end of magic. Like Merlin was his, but at the same time it was the end of magic. It was like the beginning of Christianity, and supposedly Christianity was a better thing, and it was kind of a break between the kind of animalism of just slaughtering each other to a supposedly what I would consider to be an interim, kind of a purgatory, where people actually, at the end of that purgatory, at the end of that interim period, people actually, which we're all hoping for, kind of exit into a world where people stop being animals. And in this, I think they're correctly portraying that even though they were in a Christian time, they were calling upon paganism to protect them in this story.
Tomorrow is Christmas. I beseech you, gentle Mary, guide me to where I may glorify the gift of your Son. Tomorrow. Tomorrow is Christmas. I beseech you, gentle Mary, guide me to where I may glorify the gift of your Son. Ho there! Good sir, I seek shelter. Convey my request to your master.
Aye, St. Peter, I will.
Welcome. I am Bertilla. Lodge with us for as long as you...
Thank you. I will stay just long enough to rest.
My servants will see to your needs. Join us at midnight mass and meet my wife.
My lady.
Sir Gawain, through you, we have been honored to host the court of King Arthur.
Your hospitality humbles me. Consider me your servant, to do as you ask. But I must leave tomorrow. On New Year's Day, I must be at a green chapel. I would rather die than fail to find it.
Ah, forget failure. The Green Chapel is not far from here. So stay. Be our companion for 3 more days, and then a guide will show you the way.
I must thank you again.
Excellent. Now, remember what you said, that you would do as I asked.
I am your servant, sir. Now more than ever.
Then study what I suggest. Tomorrow, whilst I hunt, you rest. Rise and eat when you want. My wife will keep you company till I return. Agreed? Let's make another bargain. Whatever I win in the woods becomes yours. And what you collect in the castle comes to me. We exchange our winning.
Okay, so it's been a long time since I've read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, but I did read it, and I did study it, but I'm noticing in this cartoon that his wife is always dressed in green, is all green, face is even green, skin is even kind of green.
In the evening.
Well, if that's how you play, sir.
Or is that his wife, and there's somebody else in the room who's all green?
It's my pleasure too.
Then let's drink to it.
And they all seem to be about partying, right? Yeah, they're definitely partying.
What I win, you win.
And what I win, you win.
Come, or be called a coward.
Maybe he drank something, got him wasted and passed out. Maybe a drug. Yeah, I remember this part.
Good morning, Sir Gawain. Can I have caught you?
Caught me? Caught me unaware, dear lady.
I've trapped a knight of King Arthur's court.
If you would let me dress, we could converse in comfort.
The hunt left hours ago. The household is asleep, the doors locked. You'll be more comfortable here. I know ladies who would lose their gold to be in my place, with a man whose reputation is so revered.
Madam, you are most generous. But you flatter me. Because, like Mary, you see good in everything and everyone.
Then let us speak of what is good. From what I've heard, no man alive would make a better husband.
Save your spouse, my most hospitable host, whose generosity is matched only by your own. I am at your service, madam, as your knight.
And I am at yours, as your lady. But perhaps you don't deserve your reputation after all.
Lady?
The Sir Gawain of legend, if he'd lain so long with a lady, would have claimed an excuse for a kiss.
It was never my intention to insult you. I am your knight. I kiss at your command. May
God be with you.
So you see there's a lot of sidelines because, like I was saying, these were to teach you things, right? And they're trying to teach you these things. How much it matters, I don't know. That's up to you. Seems to me to be irrelevant to the basic premise of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is about learning humility.
Sir Gawain, you remember our bargain?
I do.
All this is for you.
As fine a feast of flesh as I've seen for years. And this is for you.
Your kiss is finer than my kill. Tell me, good Sir Gawain, how did you procure such a prize?
We said we'd swap what we win, not share how we work.
Sir Gawain, that's good. So, let's drink and dine.
The same again?
You mean our bargain?
Tomorrow. Why not? Good morning.
Oh, I think it will be. But have you lost sight of yesterday's lesson?
What?
A courteous knight must kiss his lady.
But if I'd offered and you'd objected.
You could have used coercion.
Where I come from, a man doesn't grab what isn't given.
But I am offering.
Then I was wrong. I am yours to kiss.
Talk to me about love. Is it pain or pleasure for you?
It seems to me whatever shape love fashions, its shadow shifts.
So it's been a long time since I've read it, and now I'm seeing why I didn't really care about it. Because all it's talking about is love and sex, and whether you should or shouldn't basically screw some other guy's wife or whatever. And to me, it's irrelevant. Doesn't really matter, and I don't see what it has to do with humility. So it's another one of those situations where they're mixing important with the unimportant. You know, men, they want to do whatever and women want to do whatever. Who cares, really? Who cares? You know, I don't care if somebody, I mean, I've had lots of women. Do I care that there's other men out there, or that the women I've been with want to be with other men, and that other men want to be with the women I've been with? No, I don't. I don't. You know, I got over that when I was 20 years old, and my first girlfriend slept with somebody else. You know, at some point you just have to say, fuck, man. That's what you're talking about, fuck, right? You're talking about fuck. Fuck, 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 fuck. That word that we're not supposed to say. And yet everybody's doing it, right? So, I mean, who gives a shit? What's important here is the humility part. So, I'm gonna just jump ahead.
Forgive me, Father. I have sinned.
So he finally fucked her. And you know, people seem to be all consumed with fucking. And yet we're not supposed to say the word. Oh no. We're gonna spend hours and hours and hours of our short lives, days, months, years, all consumed with this thing, you know, passing along our genes or our blood or whatever it is. And you know what? I doubt seriously that it really matters. I mean, I hate to burst your bubble. You know, you placed enormous importance upon yourself based on having done what, I was driving down the street one day and I saw 2 dogs on the side of the road. What were they doing? The male dog had the female dog. He was fucking her. And no doubt the female dog had babies. So what have you achieved? That's what you've achieved? I'm not belittling it. I'm just trying to point out the fact that, God, who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? And I'm not doing that because I don't have kids. I'm doing that because forever I've always felt like, well, and I'm not saying I don't have kids. It's really none of your business. So, but forever it's been like screwing with everybody. It's been messing with everybody. It's like everybody I know is like all consumed with this, and at the same time it's supposed to be something dirty. I mean, it's so twisted. And I can't help but think that it's twisted by conservatism, right? And how does it come into this? Why is it a major part of the Sir Gawain and the Green Knight? Where is the humility? Humility ought to be a good thing, but instead we've got it all twisted up in loyalty and servitude and not fucking some other guy's wife. I'm sorry, man, but I don't see it. I mean, I said from the very beginning of this segment that I didn't see the British version of humility. I mean, every culture, what's the word I'm thinking of here? Yeah, culture. Every culture has their own version of humility. But the British one, it's just like a soap opera. It's just like a fucking soap opera. It's so fucking pointless. It's so useless. Yeah, your humility should be that you are one of whatever 7 billion people. That's where your humility should begin and end. Whether you're screwing her or her or her or her or her, or whether she's screwing you or you or you or you or you, I really doubt that it has any significance. Let's just jump ahead and see.
Cowardice caused me to
See if it's got any kind of meaning whatsoever.
become the very thing I hate the most. A traitor and a deceiver. I concede these sins before you and submit to my penance.
You have paid the price, and your confession has made you clean. Take this sash.
Abandon your axe and fight on fairer terms.
I've served single. You flinched.
I did.
If an honest man wears this, he cannot be killed.
I'm here! Come out and show yourself!
You kept your word, Gawain, and I'll keep mine. Take off your helmet. It's time to reverse our role. You flinched.
I did, but won't again.
Even when my head fell at my feet, I didn't flinch. I must be the braver man.
But if my head falls, I cannot fit it on again. Finish it, now!
No flinching, eh? You are a true knight.
Are you heartless or fearful?
We'll see.
You've had your strike, sir. Abandon your axe and fight on fairer terms.
I've served a single blow, as agreed. My axe cannot harm an honest man. The first 2 feints of the axe were for dealing decently with your host. But on the 3rd day you were not so honest, and for that I gave you a glancing blow. That girdle you are wearing, Gawain, belongs to your host. But it would be churlish to blame you for choosing to cheat death.
Take the token of my treachery. My cowardice caused me to become the very thing I hate the most. A traitor and a deceiver. I concede these sins before you and submit to my penance.
You have paid the price, and your confession is...
Yeah. I mean, you see, it's just a silly story, right? You know, Beowulf was an ancient tale passed down by, and so was this. But I think what we have to concede is that the British culture wasn't as meaningful. What's that word that I meant to never forget? Well, I guess I forgot it. Yeah, I did. Profound. And, you know, British culture is not as profound. It is very much the kind of soap opera kind of culture, lacking in any kind of real analysis. Just living on the surface. And it's the reason why I've never had any respect for it. British culture, Scottish culture, you know, that's where I come from. But it lacks a certain profundity. So
Knight's head, and then the Green Knight rides away holding his own head. A year later, Sir Gawain...
So a lot of people are concerned with this story, because it is, I mean, all of these stories are like supposed to pass along, you know, and that's why people tell you to read the Bible and anything. All stories, true and fiction, are supposed to impart value. And I believe that basically what I consider God, even though I don't think of God as a guy in, you know, long robe and stuff, but I believe that he does impart his wisdom, and he's not a he. It imparts its wisdom through all of this, all the media. This is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. I hope you enjoyed my segment.